out in outer space. You don't want a war with stars, we all a problem, we the gang that took over these coordinates, don't bring it our way. Just give me 30 seconds, man.
That make them wanna bounce. Tag them back, I'm going dragging, racking up the body counts. Breathing fire on my rivals, melting every single rifle, burning cities to the ground. Most of this that make them wanna bounce. Tag them back, I'm going dragging, racking up the body counts. Breathing fire on my rivals, melting every single rifle, burning cities to the ground. Most of dead upon arrival.
They gon' hate me for this one. Hashtag facts are racist. R.I.P. mom, you the greatest. Raised up a king and they hate it. Everyone mind about races when they're not the biggest problem we facing. Take a real look at the nation. Single motherhood inflation. Whipping your boys, I saw jumping a lady. She only 15, left her bloody and shaking. They wasn't wearing no rags. Nobody waving no flags. You ain't even gotta ask. It's black on black on black on blacks. Everybody wanna play victim. Blame everything on the system. Be a sad day when it hit them. Life could've been different if you would've listened to the information that we spit. Take it, keep it, chew it for a bit. Hold your head up, brother, never quit. Self-accountability, that's it. That'll get you all to the top. Then you really ball till you drop. Economic growth, man, I'm here.
Yes, I am on mute. I used to not have to do that, but I switched. I'm on a different scene. Hello. I'm on a different scene, so let me start all over again. Welcome to Plausible Foolishness. I am one of the two kings of the Rube Empire. I'm the Philosopher King, the Ivory Tower, the Mad Scientist Matt, and with me is nobody, because nobody else was able to make it today. So it's just me by my lonesome, and in the spirit of Christmas, which was 3 days ago, I'm going to cut him some slack. That being said, wanted to mention a user who commented on YouTube, and he said, I didn't know you guys were on YouTube. I've been watching you on Twitch, so now I can watch you. I can watch you on YouTube, and that's great. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you. But also, you haven't been watching the show, because we say where we are at the end of every... You haven't been watching to the end of the show, because we say every show, everywhere that we are. So we're on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitch, obviously, Rumble, anywhere you can get a podcast, Instagram, and Minds.com. So follow us all of those places. Share and subscribe and like and comment and all those good things. And we'll start off the show. We already got a question. What's up, Novalium? What is your question for the Philosopher King? While I look up this article. Oh, tell me more, dear Phila. Reading is good. Okay, so there's an article in The Hill titled "The Constitution Isn't Working." And the Constitution isn't working. And it's from a professor of... this is an op-ed, so it's just an opinion piece by John Kenneth White, who's a professor. He's a professor of politics at Catholic University. And he has this to say. It's kind of a long article, so I'm gonna read the article from the Daily Wire that is about that article, and basically go through the points that the guy is making. So, the Constitution of the United States is no longer working, according to a columnist in The Hill. John Kenneth White said that the Constitution is failing because the nation's founding document could not handle increasing partisanship and distrust in American governmental institutions. And he does say that. He starts off with, the U.S. Constitution is the sacred text of American government and civic life. Sacred, it's kind of a big word, it's the central text, it and the Declaration of Independence are central texts of American government and civic life. Do I believe that these documents were inspired by God? Not in the same way that the Bible was inspired by God, but clearly the men who created this were mainly Christians, barring, some few examples of deists and maybe the random atheist. But Christianity was heavily influential. Let's put it that way. And but is it sacred? Just like Nancy Pelosi started talking about how the Capitol is sacred, and they're trying to take government and put it in place of church. In place of the Bible, and I'm not down with it. And so he says, the sacred text of American government and civic life, but it's time to face the facts. The document written in 1787 isn't working. The signs are all around us. What are these signs? Well, first off, just 38% of Americans in a recent Gallup poll expressed either a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in the presidency, down from 48% in 2001. Congress, never high in the public's estimation to begin with, fell from 26% to a mere 12%. The Supreme Court has also taken a hit, down from 50% to 36% during the same period. Okay, so why is the Constitution not working? It seems like these institutions are not working. Yes, Novalium says, in my country we'd call that Constitution ancient. That's true. The average lifespan of a Constitution in the world is 17 years. Ours is like 230 something. That's impressive. You know, it means something. But just because we don't have trust in the institutions doesn't mean that the Constitution isn't working. Yeah, France has had like 10 of them, for sure. France, I mean, just you can name it across the board. Every country, just about, on average, has a new constitution every 17 years. One reason often cited for the failing constitution are the people who inhabit its carefully crafted institutions. In Congress, serious legislators are scarce, as many members aim for viral recognition on social media. Freshman Rep. Madison Cawthorn freely admitted, I have built my staff around comms, communication, not legislation. Cawthorn is hardly alone. And then he names other Republicans. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Paul Gosar, Jim Jordan, and Lauren Boebert. So it's a Republican problem, folks. No Democrats looking for recognition. They're the serious legislators. But this new breed only cares about viral, and you know that may be true, but it's pretty telling that the only ones he can mention, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, isn't looking to go viral. Scrublord 1963. Yes, that is my point. The Constitution is not working because it's not being followed. And in fact, the confidence ratings that the American public have in the institutions of the presidency and the legislature and the Supreme Court are because they're also not following the Constitution. Have we considered that? All right. Disappointing presidents have become the norm. George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Donald Trump failed to bring the country together, with Trump leaving office amplifying spurious claims of election fraud that led to the insurrection on January 6th. Oh my gosh, I'm so sick of hearing about the insurrection on January 6th. I'm tired of it, because it's garbage. The Capitol riots are just that, lies. The claims of election fraud, well, I can't comment on that because it will get this video off of YouTube, which goes to show what? That YouTube is a staunch defender of democracy and all that, or there's a narrative that they don't want people to hear. Although it is early in the Biden presidency, voter disenchantment is already clear, and the unity he promised. This guy's unity. What does the Constitution have to do with unity? The Constitution has nothing to do with unity. The Constitution has everything to do with how the government works, and the government protecting our rights. Right? The rights that we have from God are God-given, inalienable human rights, and it protecting them from itself. Like, basically it limiting the government so that our rights are not trampled on. but unity is somehow the measure. 61% of American adults surveyed by Quinnipiac now believe the decisions of the Supreme Court are motivated by politics. They now believe that. Is this a new thing? He's acting like this is a new thing. And I bet if you were to take a time machine and go back in, generational intervals, so like 40-year intervals or something, and poll, and you'd find that most people think the decisions of the Supreme Court are motivated by politics. Because it's a governmental body. Theoretically, they're supposed to be nonpartisan and just looking at the Constitution and, strict, constructionists, dispassionate readings of the law. And then he quotes Justice Sonia Sotomayor, who describes today's court as, quote, fractured. And he says she's right. Yeah, she's right. Because there's people who believe this, who believe that the government should be involved in every aspect of our lives, and there's those who think that the government should follow the Constitution. And then there's a couple in-betweeners who could go either way, depending on, depending on their legacy, how that might be affected, or, who are just, I guess, centrists or whatever, if you want to call them that. Either way, yeah, of course. But that doesn't seem to me to be a bad thing. They're just pissed off that not everybody sees things their way. Well, yeah, of course we don't. But the Constitution's failures go much deeper. The framers designed the presidency to execute laws, not make them. But the vagaries of congressional legislation have given the president the power to make laws through executive orders. Now that's true. But that's not. Is one failure of the Constitution that I would consider to be true. But we can get to that later. But that is actually true. Executive orders sometimes are laws. Sometimes they're just explaining. Sometimes they're. A lot of what Trump did, I believe, in his executive orders. Now, I'm sure that we could find examples where I'm wrong on this. Because, nobody's perfect, and, power corrupts and all that. But, a lot of them were orders on how to do exactly that, execute laws, how we're going to enforce already existing laws. There's nothing wrong with that. That's exactly what they're supposed to be used for, And he doesn't give examples of him making laws through executive orders. He just says Donald Trump loved signing executive orders. He putting his Sharpie on 220 of them. Okay, but what was the nature of those executive orders? Just because he made executive orders doesn't make them laws if they're orders to the executive branch on how to enforce existing laws. He's not making new laws. Now, President Obama did that quite a bit. No mention of that here. The only thing that Obama didn't do is unite the country. Yeah, that is actually true, though. He did not unite the country, and he did a bunch of other crap. Meanwhile, Congress is failing to protect its constitutional prerogatives. Instead of reserving it to itself the right to declare war, Congress has surrendered war-making to the president, something the framers assiduously sought to avoid. Also true. Another thing that they're doing is they're ceding their lawmaking ability to the executive branch. But I think that this is on purpose because it allows them to do things under the table. So they can make these gigantic bills that don't have they're not actually laws. Like, they don't say what to do or what not to do. You know, they make gigantic budgets and stuff like that, but then the power of what to do is sent to an executive agency. So, you know, instead of saying you can't, this is what a wetland is, and you can't build on a wetland in the bill, they say, we are giving the power, we are turning over power to the EPA to make laws, to make regulations concerning wetlands. And then the EPA takes that and goes, okay, well, this is what you can do with wetlands. But nobody elected the people in the EPA. All right? And then the people in Congress aren't necessarily responsible. They're like, they can distance themselves from responsibility for whatever garbage regulations, you know, the EPA or the energy or the school board or, you know, any of these, you know, giant bureaucracies do. You know, I mean, they're the experts. We just put it in, and then it's their fault that it's, you know, that it's so messed up. And then, so then they keep getting elected because they never do anything, you know, but they can keep talking about how they're going to fight the good fight. And then the executive branch, where they don't have to worry about getting elected, except for the president. They don't have to, and this is what we call the deep state. You know, it's these bureaucracies that micromanage every part of our lives in some way and affect it in some way, who aren't elected, who don't have to worry about being elected, and never and survive through administrations, you know, and then put their thumb on administrations, you know, or take it off if it's something that they want, you know. Congress does nothing and is responsible for nothing, and they just sit there and accumulate their power, and then while putting their actual legislative power in the hands of the executive branch. It's really distressing. Thank you guys for the follows. Welcome to the Rube Empire. We appreciate you. Let's see. What else did they say? Okay. Okay. Okay, so White eventually concludes his argument by railing against the alleged anti-democratic nature of the Senate, Electoral College, and conservative majority Supreme Court. Quote, the Electoral College is poised to create more misfires with popular vote winners not becoming president. It's exactly what it was meant to do. As has happened twice already this century. Oh no. Oh no. The whole point of the Electoral College is that democracy, pure democracy, is just mob rule. So what if the majority of the country wants something, you know? But we can go into more on that. Just because there's 10 million people in New York City, and, you know, that they get to decide automatically what happens in Kansas? That's the whole point. We have the popular vote, and then we have, and even then, the Electoral College is based on population. So, New York does have more of a say than Kansas, or, Montana, or Idaho. California does have more of a say. Texas does. Florida does have more of a say. But it's evened out, to a certain degree. They don't have all the say, If that was the case, it would be, New York and California, well, although their populations are dropping recently because everybody's moving to Florida and Texas and like Tennessee. But it's like it's crazy. They're down like a whole percentage point in population, and Florida and Texas are up a whole percentage point. Some of them even close to 2, like 1.7 I saw. Amazing. But it still has a population number effect, right? And so does the the Senate is the straight up 2-man from each state, because the thing is that they don't look at the states the way that the founders did. Each state was a little country. We were a country. We're a country of countries, right? We weren't American first. We were Florida first, and Georgia first, and New Hampshire first, and, Illinois first. And then we were, federated. We were, then we were Americans, and that started to change, 100, 150 years ago, on purpose, because they want to centralize. That was a decentralized notion, that we were our individual states. We were citizens of our individual states before we were members of the federal government, America thing, they wanted to centralize power, and so they needed us to start thinking about the federal government more. So, and then here we go. Okay, so the Electoral College is poised to create more misfires with popular vote winners not becoming president, as has happened twice already this century, he writes. And, quote, territorial expansion has resulted in 16% of the U.S. population controlling half the seats in the U.S. Senate. So what? Yes, it's called equal representation. This guy is saying that the Constitution has failed while ignoring the original intent of the Constitution. Great job. Meanwhile, the strict constructionists of the Supreme Court resort to determining the original intent of a document written 234 years ago, rather than understanding that it was a beginning, not an ending point. No. I mean, it's such a ridiculous statement. Because if you understand the Constitution, you understand that the founders did see it as a beginning point, and that's why they wrote in the ability to amend the Constitution, right? Which is not the Supreme Court's job, all right? And so the strict constructionists are right. They look at the document as intended, and it is the end point until Congress and the states amend the Constitution. And if they amend it, then the Supreme Court takes that Constitution as an end point upon which they adjudicate laws, adjudicate these cases. So what are you talking about, dude? You're just pissed off that they don't think like you. The Constitution has failed because we don't all agree on his leftist, Marxist talking points. We're not a mob rule society, but pushing pure democracy everywhere that we can, because then we could get charismatic leaders like Barack Obama to get the crowd to do anything. But if we get a charismatic leader like Donald Trump, then he runs wild with power. What? That's, I can't stand it, because this is complete garbage. It won't be, he says this, it won't be enough merely to reform the filibuster, add more justices to the Supreme Court, change presidents, or surrender presidential powers to Congress. A document written in 1787 is inadequate for the 21st century, White concludes. Let's face facts, the Constitution isn't working. Now, here's the thing. I kind of agree with him in the statement the Constitution isn't working. I agree with almost nothing of what he said as to why. But I want to read this quote that I've read before by Lysander Spooner. He says this, but whether the Constitution really be one thing or another, this much is certain, that it has either authorized such a government as we have had, which I don't believe to be true, or has been powerless to prevent it. In either case, it is unfit to exist. Now, we can argue on whether or not it is unfit to exist because of that, but it has, and he wrote that 80 years after the Constitution was written, okay, and finalized and voted on and became, the sacred text of our government. Only 80 years afterwards, he was looking at the government and going, this is not what the founders wanted in the Constitution. And then we're here, 234 years later? What did they say what did the article say? I lost it. It was 230 something years later. And we're looking at the government and going, the Constitution is not being followed. This is not what the founders intended. And so his point is that this monstrosity of a government has been allowed to exist because the Constitution isn't effective in making it happen. Now, the real deal is no piece of paper is going to be effective because man is flawed and power corrupts. So man is going to get in a position of power and try to take as much as he can because it corrupts people and because people are already corrupted. So corrupt people, everybody's corrupt. I mean, that's just straight out of the Bible. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, right? Good evening, Death Hunter. What's up? All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And the Constitution, and so when sinners get in a position of power, they try to grab more power. And so Lysander Spooner, if you haven't figured out, is an anarchist. A plow truck for almost 12 hours. I was sitting at a desk for 6.5 hours. And it was unpleasant. So, God bless you. So Lysander Spooner's an anarchist. He doesn't think there should be any state. And he did this very long analysis of the Constitution, which is pretty interesting. It's very long, but he goes in on it, And it's not a browbeating of the principles of the Constitution, per se. The principles of the Constitution I love. And frankly, if we could get back to the Constitution and its purity, I'd be very, very, very happy with that. You know, I would be. I think anybody who's liberty-minded would be. But the truth remains that in spite of the Constitution, or maybe even because of it, but it doesn't matter which it is, we have the government we have today, and it did nothing to stop it, or it helped create it. And I think it just did nothing to stop it because people are going to do what they want to do, and so the answer to me and to Spooner is then don't give them that power. You know, let's have a voluntary society completely. Is that plausible? I don't know. I want to read more about it. But I'm looking at the world today, and you know, it's just full of tyrants everywhere. I mean, just look at what's happening in Austria and especially Australia first. Australia went nutso a long time ago, and it's just continuing on that path very badly. Austria's doing things. You know, you got people in like 60% of the Swedish population is getting microchipped for vaccine passports. This is what happens when, you know, and they're a very agnostic country. You know, so they took God out of their country, you know, and they've forgotten about the mark of the beast. So they're totally fine getting microchipped for vaccine transports and or passports, and how long before they're fine with being microchipped for, you know, the buying and purchasing of goods and services, you know. And I see all this tyranny, and I'm like, these people shouldn't have power. We tell ourselves the government is a necessary institution, a necessary evil. And I'm questioning whether or not we're telling ourselves that because we've been indoctrinated to think that from the moment we've been born. We've even if you're liberty minded, you've been told you gotta have a government, though. You know, you gotta have these things. And so the thought never occurred to us that perhaps we don't. Welcome to the Rube Empire, Admiral Groofus. We welcome you. Perhaps we don't need a government, and there's a way to organize society without it. And there's a lot of people over time who have thought about these things for a long time. But of course, you know, they're not going to be mainstream because these ideas are a threat to state power. You know? Now, maybe they're wrong. You know, maybe it is a necessary evil, and so we can just be, you know, minarchists. Or, also true, no one will listen. You know, that's possible. But I think people are more open now more than ever. And so, like I said, if we were to get back to a truly limited constitutional government, I'd be very, very, very happy. Very happy. You know? but perhaps we can go even further. But let's take it in small, bite-sized steps. Let's roll back the tyranny. Let's get rid of all these bureaucracies. Let's restore liberty. Let's do it. Step by step by step. And I'm gonna keep doing my research. I'm gonna keep reading. People like Murray Rothbard is one that's highly recommended for the modern libertarian / anarchist, thought leaders. And I'll keep being the fanatical one on this show. But we'll see. Admiral Goofus, I moved out of California like a month before the Vax passport. Thank God. Yeah, yes, you dodged quite the bullet. Great job getting out of California. California, as people like to say. I got a couple of minutes. Does anybody have any questions or anything in the chat that we can go to? Death Hunter says that would be a great day to return to our roots as a nation. Yeah, but I wonder if short of dismantling this state, this gigantic federal government, I mean that would be part of it, I guess. But what's going to keep people from just building it right back up again, We need to. I guess I could say that I'm jumping the gun by saying there should be no state. Let's just work on getting our liberties back, Yeah, the government that governs best governs least, right? And what government governs least? No government at all. Self-government, right? Self-government. And it's just the ideas of just because just because a majority of people say that something is true or is law, does that really make it so? Just because a person says, I have authority over you, doesn't make it so. And you might say something like, well, what about, a business owner who says that he has authority over you? But that's completely different in that you have engaged in a consensual transaction with this person where you are trading your time and your labor for their money, and then and in that contract there are ways that you need to perform that he has laid out, and there's been an agreement amongst that. There's an agreement there. Death Hunter says, no more career politicians would be a good start if only we could get enough good, honest people in office to vote on term limits for House and Senate. Agreed, term limits would be great. I'm for it, I just gotta say that I crave freedom so strongly now. I want it now. I have almost no patience for not being free. And so I don't know. I think that's what's led me to just get rid of the state altogether. Just shut it down. The way Goofus says, or the way Virginia's governorship works, no consecutive terms. So no consecutive terms. So they serve one term, but then after another term, they can do as many terms as they want. They just can't be consecutive. That's interesting. Imagine by the time you would get to a third term, people would be like, meh. You know, they'd be kind of done. I don't know. Yeah, for sure. It's better than lifelong appointments, you know, for people who can smooth talk their way to getting voted again. I don't understand why incumbents generally automatically win. It's because it's like you said, nobody does any of their own research. So they're not actually looking into what this person did or said, or they're just like, okay, this ad looks good. It's better than that other guy's ad. And CNN or my local news told me that this other guy's bad. So I'm not going to vote for him. Or, I'm Republican. My daddy's Republican. My daddy's daddy is Republican. I vote Republican. Guy's got an R next to his name. He's okay by me. And that doesn't work either. You know, I'm not a Republican. I vote Republican a lot because generally, and I say that loosely, generally they line up with some of my ideals, but my ideals have become more radical towards freedom. So, they don't line up quite as much. But we'll see where that goes, because, the Libertarian Party isn't necessarily super exciting, although things are happening. The Mises Caucus, if you follow the Libertarian Party at all, the Mises Caucus is stirring things up, and people like Dave Smith is making strong cases and getting some kind of passion back, and then all this tyranny that we're seeing is making people passionate for liberty, left and right. And let's face it, folks, we're not going to get it from the R's. We're definitely not going to get it from the D's. The D's want the tyranny. But the R's don't really have the spine. Or some of them do, obviously. All the ones that were mentioned in that article have the spine to say something and do things. And that's why they're going viral, because they're saying what people want to hear. But that would be awesome if the Libertarians actually got a few seats and then they did something, But that's so hard, because it's like, if they get a few seats and then what, They still have to convince other people to follow along, It's just like, okay, for in Florida, there's this guy named Sabatini in our state legislature, and since he got elected, every single time that he has been able to, like, I guess there's like a time limit or whatever, as soon as the time limit is up, he proposes a bill for constitutional carry in Florida. And then it goes to committee. It goes to a public safety committee and gets struck down, and never makes it to even a vote. But he's out there doing it over and over and over again, and I love it. And there's been some traction lately, which is awesome. And DeSantis said that he would sign it. And there's been some change-ups in that committee, which means that it's possible that it might actually make it past the committee and go to a vote, which would be freaking awesome. And I hope that it comes, because, damn it, Florida needs... there's 22 states with it, and Florida isn't one of them. How is that possible? Anyway. But it's like, we get a couple seats, that would be great, but will they be effective? And then why... It's it's foolish of us in many ways to be looking to these politicians, even libertarian ones, as the saviors of the nation. They're not. We are. We're the saviors of the nation. We have to stand for our own liberty. And what does that look like? I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I think we attack it on the local level. I think we stop paying attention to the federal government. Give them the old up yours, and we turn our local communities into bastions of freedom. You know, and then our state, and then from there our states, and then we can, and then, you know, go from there. I mean, DeSantis is kind of doing that in you know, especially as it pertains to COVID. It's like, listen, you can say all you want, Biden, whatever you're going to do, but we're not going to do that in Florida. So cram it with walnuts. But then we can be like, you know, this is the city I live in, and imagine turning a city into a libertarian stronghold. You know, that's what the Free State Project in New Hampshire did. Yeah, they put it out there. Liberty-minded people, come to New Hampshire and let's turn this state around. Let's turn this state into a free state, into a libertarian state. I think that's the model. We need to spread the word, you know, and then we need to affect change on a local level. And we need to build networks of people, like, you know, get your loved ones the plan for disasters and for, you know, the fall of the monetary system and things like that. You know, we need to be refuges. We need to be a refuge for those around us, those we love, those we care about, our friends and family, you know. And we need to be building these sanctuaries. And it's a freaking ton of work, you know. But we can do it together, and we can make it happen. The other thing is that for any of this to work, you need a moral society, and that's the crux of it. That's the cornerstone. Morals, which means ultimately the only savior, the only answer is Jesus Christ. That's just the long and short of it. Jesus is Lord, and if you don't know him, I would respectfully say you should seek after him. Read the Bible, learn about him, and you'll see I think you'll see the merit. I think you'll see. I pray that you would see the light. But yeah, Jesus is ultimately the answer to everything. Did you hear that Harry Reid just died? Yeah, Harry Reid just died. Also, John Madden died from the NFL. You know, Madden football 2022. Interesting, sad. Harry Reid, I mean, whatever. I mean, rest in peace. I doubt you are, unfortunately. And, you know, that's just whatever. But, you know, I pray for their families, and that God would comfort them. Oh, I mean, he was a senator, a Democrat, and he was, you know, he did all the usual Democrat stuff. I remember, I'm pretty sure that he He, in his earlier career, was constantly railing against the Fed that it needed to be audited. And then when the libertarian movement in more recent years and people like Rand Paul and Ron Paul and like the Freedom Caucus, whatever, were trying to push for auditing the Fed, he came out and railed against it. So he may have in his early years been, somewhat of a scrupled politician, if that is even a word, a politician with scruples. He definitely did not have that later on, and I think that's just what Washington D.C. does to you. It's a whole system designed to catch you in something that they can then blackmail you with, and then you're theirs. Anyway, on that note, you've been watching Plausible Foolishness, the home of the Rube Empire, where the people are free. The taxes are voluntary, and we thank you for your voluntary taxes that help support the show. If you would like to, you can subscribe on Twitch, or you can donate in the links down below. And if you donate, in the links, all of your money that you spend goes to us rather than some of it going to Amazon. And more importantly, though, we serve freshly roasted liberal logic every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 9:30 p.m. right here on twitch.tv/plausiblepoolishness, YouTube, Facebook Live, Rumble, anywhere you can get a podcast, Instagram, and minds.com. Peace out.
Banger, gotta bang. We the ones that put them words that's scrolling out in outer space. You don't want a war with stars, we all a problem. We the gang that took over these coordinates, don't bring it our way. Fire, better retire. On the job, ain't no one higher. High up, see the hardest drivers. Galaxy riders, alien siders. Out in the field, we left them signs. This is seismic, broke that ground, that's why we signed up. Zodiac signs ain't no one
I'm a desperado, never with no next to follow. Time I give them extra throttle, but I never need to flex it. Better when you exit, we shine like Apollo. And I got a whole list of accolades, I'm feeling like Milano. No rappers have gone the motto, ayy. Fire, burning all through my veins, aiming higher and higher. Enemies know my name.
Banger, gotta bang. We the ones that put them words that's scrolling out in outer space. You don't want a war with stars, we all a problem. We the gang that took over these coordinates, don't bring it our way.
This that make them wanna bounce. Tag them, bag them, going dragging, racking up the body counts. Breathing fire on my rivals, melting every single rifle. Burning cities to the ground, most are dead upon arrival.
Going down must be your FICO, no, we're going at you like a hypo.
Halogenic, venomous viper, killing it sniper, in your vitals.
And echoing like a rhino, or etching them like a vinyl.
We unidentified flying in Space Force, you know the title. Ay.
Fire, burning all through my veins, aiming higher and higher. Enemies know my name.
Banger, gotta bang. We the ones that put them words that's scrolling out in outer space. You don't want a war with stars, we all a problem. We the gang that took over these coordinates, don't bring it our way.
Just give me 30 seconds, man.
This that make them wanna bounce. Tag them, bag them, going dragging, racking up the body counts. Breathing fire on my rivals, melting every single rifle. Burning cities to the ground. Most of this that make them